Now, let's begin with the second of the four categories of a woman's value from a man's perspective. The second is your sexual marketplace value. Now, this is perhaps the most important from a man's perspective. This usually is what gets his attention. This is very visual. So let's go into this in some detail. What is your sexual market value? Okay, well, your sexual marketplace value. Now, I should have said, in all of the value systems, men will associate a score. So just keep that in mind. The scoring system will be between 0 and 10. So for comparability, we have to use a common metric. We standardize the scoring system so that we can compare one against the other. This comparison is not based on race, ethnicity, color of your skin, or any incidental attribute that you might have. It's simply a standardized metric we use across, so we can compare women irrespective of age. We can compare women irrespective of skin color or race. We just say, she's a 10, she's an 8, she's a 6, she's a 5, she's a 2. Now, your sexual marketplace value is a very difficult one for women to comprehend. And for most women, they struggle with this primarily because they consider this to be vain. Men consider this to be natural. Men are visual. For those of you who have not read Andre Agassi's book called Open, I found the book to be very fascinating, but also very well narrated. If you cannot read, you can listen to the audiobook, and the narration is spectacular. But in the statement, he makes a statement in the book which stuck with me. He said, image is everything. And he was trying to describe his experience as a professional tennis player and the challenges he faced with his image, but also the realization that came to his attention when he understood the importance of his image, especially to the marketplace. Your sexual marketplace value for a woman is interwoven by a number of factors. Primarily, it's visual. And this connects to the whole concept of image. And this is why women think it's vain, because women generally believe that a woman's worth is much more than what she looks like. And generally, that is a plausible statement to make. However, I learned something many years ago, that if you do not know me, then it means that I am obscure, that my issue is obscurity, and that the first thing I have to do is to get your attention. Attention is currency. We've seen the power of attention in the last 10, 15 years on social media. Those who can hold other people's attention command a great following, command a lot of financial rewards, command a lot of attention. Attention is currency. And how you get people's attention makes a difference. I can stand on the corner of the road and I can shout at everyone that walks past me, and I will get their attention. But I will be seen and looked at no different to a drunk, mad scoundrel. On the other hand, if a woman stands at the same corner of the road and she dresses very, very well, and if she is very beautiful, irrespective of whether it's a man walking past or a woman walking past, like beauty, we are drawn to the beauty. We're drawn to that attraction. She gets our attention. It could be based on how she dresses. Sometimes it could be based on how she looks. Sometimes it could be based, perhaps, on her demeanor. But attention is currency. And the way the sexual marketplace works, in order to get a man, you have to get his attention first. And once you have his attention, you go into the introduction phase and then into the conversation or communication phase. But step one is attention. And that means that for women, your sexual marketplace value can be very easily judged on three simple things. The first is your height, your weight, and this connects to your dress size. Fundamentally, your height, your weight, your dress size. That's what we see. A woman who is round is perceived differently to a woman who has a pear shape, and is perceived very different to a woman who is more slender and slim. I know this is not an easy thing to say. However, society does not place any burden on anyone beyond what they're willing to accept. So the whole concept that this is a creation of society to oppress women of certain shapes and sizes is completely preposterous as far as I'm concerned. The reason is simple. In the marketplace, it's not society that does the comparability. It's the person standing next to you. So for example, a woman who is a size 16 is considered relatively smaller if she is in a group where the smallest size next to hers is size 22. So someone who is 16 will look relatively smaller if she's around women who are much bigger. Likewise, a woman who is a size 4 could look too small if she's next to people who are size 10s and size 12s and size 14s. This is the concept of what we call relative comparability, not absolute comparability. Absolute comparability is where we look at you just as a person, and that is what I will focus on. But similarly, there is also the part whereby a man looks at you as an individual, then he compares you to the group because you are part of the group. So height, weight, dress size. Let's begin with height. In the UK, the average height of the British female is 5'4". The average height of the British male is roughly 5'9", 5'10". As a matter of fact, there's been a number of polls done where they've asked men, what is your ideal and attractive height for a woman? And they say 5'4" to 5'5". So generally, the average is the norm, and the average is the most attractive. When women are asked, what is your preference or your preferred height for a male, they usually say 5'9", 5'10". Again, the average is the norm, preferred, people's preference. So for example, let me use myself. I'm 6'2" plus. That would mean that on a relative basis, if you were comparing me to the average male, most women may not consider me desirable because I'm not that perfect or ideal height. I'm slightly higher. So for women who are smaller, they would find me slightly too tall. On the other hand, women who are much taller, women who are 5'9", 5'11", 6, would find someone who is taller than them slightly more appealing or attractive. So your height matters. The next is your weight. Again, a very, very sensitive subject. So let me be careful in choosing my words, but let me not rob you of the opportunity to provide you with something of value. Your weight matters, but your weight is relative to your height. What does that mean? Okay, well, generally, the best way to think about your weight is a man is thinking about how heavy you are. There used to be the need for a man to be able to carry his wife. Just think about wedding photographs. That says it all. Can you carry your wife? Can you carry her from one part of the dance floor to the other? And usually a woman's weight should be about, and this is not applicable to everyone, but on the average, if we're looking at women who are, say, from between 55 and 59, that is, you could say, the average ideal weight, maximum, that a woman should weigh. You can weigh less, but ideally, if you're weighing slightly more, that is a little bit troublesome, without reason. Again, without reason. But it's relative to your weight. So the shorter you are, the worse it looks. The taller you are, the more acceptable it looks. But a woman's weight, for example, should be, the way the man will consider this between a man and a woman is the man should weigh the woman's weight plus 10 kg. And he could go up to 15 kg. So his weight plus 15. So for example, let's use myself. My weight fluctuates. I'm at 95 kilograms, but I usually am roughly at 90 kilograms. Sometimes I drop down to 89 kg. But if I'm building, sometimes I can go up to 95. I tend to find that 95 is normally my, on the average, that's my weight. I'm very athletic, and so compared to my height, this is very important, and I'm going to use myself so you can see that my intention is not to bash women, but I'm going to use my height and my weight so you can understand that the marketplace doesn't really care about your feelings. Facts are very stubborn things. And for people who believe that their perspectives are too important to be disrupted or interrupted by facts, they always end up being corrected in a miserable way by life, eventually. According to the BMI, if you go to the NHS, which is the National Health Service, if you were to put in my height, and if you were to put in my weight, it would tell you that I am overweight. The first time I tried this, I burst out laughing. Because if you've met me, yes, you will notice I'm built, I have an athletic build, and I lift weights, and most of my physique is mostly muscles. My body fat is perhaps maybe 7 on average, or 8. However, the BMI calculator says I am overweight, and it says in order for me to move away from the overweight category, I have to fall down to 89 kilograms, or 88 kilograms actually, not 89. But my natural weight is this, and at the lowest I might go down to 89, but usually I am between 89 and 95. Now, why am I discussing myself? After all, you haven't come here to listen to me. I'm doing so you can understand that even using the standards that we have, I do not have any complaints against the BMI. It is what it is. I don't take issue with that. So likewise, whatever you hear me say about your weight, don't take issue with it. Just ask yourself the question, is this possible? Is he potentially correct? And is he wrong? So let's go back to ladies. Your weight, you should be looking to keep your weight within a healthy range. Women who are weighing 65 and above, depending on your build, you might justify that. But in the marketplace, it makes a difference. Your weight should be regulated to your height. If you're 5'4", you should be aiming for something in that range or lower. If you're 5'2", you should be aiming or lower. If you're 6'1", then you could aim for something slightly higher. You might go up to 63 or kg or something, or 65 kg. But you have to be careful about your weight. Now, this is why this is very, very important. Let's go back to myself. Let's say I'm dating a lady who is 5'10", for example, and she weighs 60 pounds. Sorry, 60 kilograms. Apologies, I may have been using pounds all along, but I am 95 kilograms. Let's say I'm dating a lady this much, and let's say we have the intention of having 3 to 4 kids. The reason men consider your weight to be an issue is because usually when a woman has a child, she tends to retain between 10 and 15 kilograms after birth. So let's say child number 1, she puts on 15 kilograms. Let's say that she's able to lose some of that. In this case, let's say she loses 30% of that. And let's say she drops down to something in the region of about 11 kilograms. Child number 2, she puts on another 10 to 15. Now let's assume that she goes through her childbearing process consecutively. Child 1, first year, child 2, second year, child 3, third year, and she's done. So by the second year, she puts on another 15 kilograms. But this time around, she only gets rid of roughly 25%. So let's say she retains 12 kilograms. And child 3, she puts on another 10 to 15 kilograms. But this time around, she's only able she retains roughly 13 kilograms. What you find here is that she's put on 36 kilograms. If she was 60 kilograms to start with, by the time she's had her 3 kids, she's 96 kg. She weighs more than I do, but she's not the same height as I am. So suddenly, a lady who was, lean, standing next to me, as she has her babies, and I'm indebted to her for giving me the best honor of kids, but she starts to put on weight, and the older she gets, the harder she's able to take off the weight. So men generally prefer women who are slimmer, for the reason being that if they want to have a family, they want their wives to be attractive after birth. They do not want to have the issue about attraction beyond conception. And for that reason, it tends to be the case that depending on the woman's physiology, some women will be able to lose 70 or 80%. Some will lose even 90% of the weight. Some even all of the weight over a 2 or 3 year period. However, not all women have that luxury. So men generally are wondering, what would she look like once she's conceived? And remember, I will, if I do things correctly, the way men are thinking, they were thinking, I would have been married to the woman, and I cannot look elsewhere. I'm supposed to be committed, but I need an attractive wife. She's a mother of my kids, but she is still my wife. She needs to be attractive. So it's important for women to try to aspire to weigh less as much as they can, providing they're still healthy and they're adjusting their weight to their height. Now this correlates from weight to height to dress size. I'll try not to speak too much about the dress side because this is another landmine. But let me say this. My mother it's a dress size, UK dress size 6 to 8. I think my mum is actually a 6, not an 8. Yes, my mum is a 6. Now, I'm not comparing you to my mother, but my mother is still a 6 at her age. And all through my mother's life, my mother has been a 6. There are times when she's gone up to a 6, 8, but usually she's been a 6. At her age today, she is a 6. Far be it for me to say what a woman's weight and dress size should be. I will say this. Your height affects how you're perceived, because your height connects to your weight, which connects to the dress size dress you wear. The smaller you are, the more appealing you are. I believe generally men are looking for women in the UK between a size 6 and a size 8, in my opinion. If you're less than a size 6, slightly concerning. If you're more than a size 12, that is unfortunately does not give you a competitive advantage, because like I said, if you have 2 or 3 kids and suddenly you go from size 12 and then you're a size 16, which is overweight and obese, between a 6 and an 8, what men generally prefer, because then they can build and work with that. But between an 8 and a 10 is realistically the right weight. Realistically. Now, I should say this, that one has to be mindful of the fact that certain women have we all have different body shapes and body sizes. So keep this in mind. Do not use this as a rationalization, but it does make a difference. In looking at your height and your size, there are a few things that we consider. We look at your shoulders size, we look at your bust, we look at your waist, we look at your elbows size, we look at your hips, we look at your ankles, we look at your legs. Men generally will pay attention to a few areas. Your shoulders. So a woman could be a shoulder like that, then her bust. Your bust should be slightly less or bigger, depending on your preference as a man, and then your waist. Let's say your waist comes back somewhere there. Skip your elbows for now. We'll go down to your hips, and let's say your ankles, and then your legs. So suddenly what you're finding is you're starting to draw a shape. Now, this will vary depending on people. But ladies, one of the best things you can do for yourself is to get naked. So you can see and appreciate your body shape relative to other people. Now, one of the best ways that I experienced this was when I started doing yoga. But I started doing not just normal yoga, but hot yoga. This is hot yoga you do in temperatures of about 40 degrees, sometimes less. But there's a big mirror in front of the room, and you know, the men are not wearing a shirt, they're wearing underpants or swimwear, and the ladies are dressed in whatever they feel comfortable in, yoga pants and a top. But it was useful because your actual physique is laid bare in front of you, and you're encouraged as you do the practice to look at the mirror, look at yourself, so you can correct your poses. And so suddenly the illusion you once had about your physique evaporates over time, because you get to see yourself, but also you get to see yourself relative to other men in the same group. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should compare yourself to other people, because sometimes you might find the age demographics vary. In any case, standing in front of the mirror relative to other people is a great way of knowing what your physique looks like and how your physique compares to other people. There are so many shapes for women. You know, you have the pear shape. You know what? Let me not go there. Ladies, you can spend some time online looking at all the different shapes. And as a matter of fact, I would suggest you do this and look at the various key areas. You know, the bust, the waist, the hips, the bum, just so you can see how your bum, you know, there are different, you know, bumps. Ladies, you just go do your research so you can understand, because the most important part of this, you may have heard this saying, you know, accentuate the positives and down with the negatives and don't mess with the other jazz. The whole purpose of this is so you can understand your intrinsic characteristics, and so you can understand how to maximize and improve your visual image of yourself. So for example, the reason I started talking about the bum is because you can understand what exercises are needed to enhance your body. You can understand your key selling points, the parts of your physique that are the most attractive, so you can maximize those. You can look for areas of improvement. But the key thing is to recognize what you have. There are women who are size 16s who are very, very attractive, and more attractive than women who are size 10s. Why? Because the women who are 16 are proportional. They know how to use their bodies. They have studied themselves. They know what they work on. And so to the man who's looking from the outside, he would find her more attractive than a woman who is a size 10, who just believes that because she's a size 10, she automatically is attractive. It isn't the case. It's about how your several body parts relate to each other. Now, let me leave that and put that aside, because I think I've dealt with that enough. But let me come back to your sexual marketplace value. We call this your SMV. Okay, very quickly. This deals with your level of attractiveness. And by that, I'm talking about how fit you are. In the UK, we say the girl is very fit, meaning she has a great body, or she's attractive. It has to do with your sexual marketplace value, has to do with your beauty. Some people have very beautiful faces. Some people have outstanding bodies, even without trying. Some people have beautiful legs. Some people have beautiful hands. Some people have beautiful shoulders. But overall, your beauty. It has your sexual marketplace value, as I've mentioned before, combines your height, your weight, and your dress size. Now, the reason your height, weight, dress size matter to a man is because we think about what you would look like in casuals. We think about what you would look like naked on the beach. We think about what you would look like going to a dinner, a formal dinner. We think about what you would look like going to a ball. We think about what you would look like actually playing sports. We think about what you would look like as a mother once you've had kids. Now, number 4 is it has to do with generally your aesthetics. How you put together colors. If you're dark-skinned and beautiful, how do you use your colors? Usually, dark-skinned people women who wear black and very dull colors do not maximize their beauty. From a contrast perspective, you have to go sit down with someone who is a style consultant and understand what colors bring out the beauty of your skin. If you have black hair, what colors in terms of your lipstick, in terms of the different colors you put together, what colors accentuate your qualities? So aesthetics is a combination of both your looks, but how you package yourself. Some people are very attractive naturally, but in any case, your SMV deals with your natural. All of this deals with natural, not enhancement. We'll come to enhancement soon. Yes, it's important to be enhanced, but every day the man wakes up next to you. The face he sees first thing in the morning is who you are. Enhancements come afterwards. So, question to yourself. Ladies, give yourself a score between 0 and 10. And now this is an exercise from me to you. If you have a way of doing this, I want you to ask men who are not sexually attracted to you and men who do not have any intentions of being sexually involved with you, and men who are not relationally involved with you and are not part of your family or your inner circle, what they think your score is. As a matter of fact, if you walked into a gym and there were 10 men and you asked the 10 men to give you a score individually and independently, they'll all give you a score. That is the perception of your score to those men based on your aesthetics. So, key thing, give yourself a score, and if you can, get a group of men to score you. Usually when women score other women, they score them very highly. When men score women, they score them very realistically. But what we're looking at is your score first thing in the morning, when you do not have any makeup, when you have your natural hair, your natural eyelashes, no lip glosses, no lipsticks, everything natural, no makeup, natural. That is your natural look. Some women, once they put on enhancements, look much more attractive. And that is good because the marketplace only sees you once you're ready to face the day. But usually I would discount 1 point or 1.5 or 2 points from people who use too much makeup, because the man who really matters is the man you end up with. The marketplace gives you a score of a 9 or an 8 because you've enhanced yourself and you dress well. And let me say this, now this is not something that is nice to say, but it's true. I have been bitterly disappointed over my life where you meet someone and they look absolutely gorgeous, stunning. And once they've taken off all their makeup, you're left wondering, who's this girl? This is a different woman. So be careful about makeup, because in many ways it's a false perception. And men are usually bitterly disappointed when they wake up or when they see you without makeup and they realize, oh, she's not as attractive. Everything was simply a fake. There is too much emphasis being, the more natural you are, the better for you. I don't know how to say this, but I would say from a man's perspective, the compliment I often get, even from men, is usually, if I take off my clothes, it's usually wow. I think that for me, I see that as a compliment. Why? Because when I'm dressed, I look like the normal man. I look normal. I wear a jacket, I wear a suit or a shirt, and everything is concealed. But when you take off your clothes, people are impressed with what they see because they cannot tell from the outside. That is a better position to be in than when you take off your clothes. People say, oh, you look much better when you wear clothes than you do when you're not wearing clothes. So keep that in mind. You want to look more attractive naturally than using enhancements. So your sexual marketplace value will vary, but it's based on a relative, not an absolute score. So you might say, I'm an 8. No, you have to be relatively comparable. So if you are in and this is very important, if you are in a location where all of the women, on average, are 8, then you all cannot be an 8. From a relative perspective, this will start to fall down because we have to then compare you against the others. So one person will be an 8, the other might be a 7.5, the other will be a 7, the other becomes a 6, by comparing one to the other. As an individual, I can take you who is an 8 here, to another market and you become a 6. Or I can take someone who's a 6 in one market to another location and they'll become an 8. For example, London has the highest population in the United Kingdom. It also has the highest number of international residents. And so you have people from all areas of the world. And therefore, you have people who are relatively very attractive. Relatively. If you were to travel to Northumberland, you might find a girl who is very attractive there, who is an 8. But once you bring her to London, you might score her a 6. Because in Northumberland, maybe there are fewer women and fewer attractive women. Whereas in London, there are more women and a lot more attractive women. So keep that in mind, that location and geography matters. Which is why for women, from a strategic perspective, it's better to be, if you're looking to settle down, it's better to be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond. You know, if you're in Chester, you might find that if you are attractive, the opportunities for you to find someone is much better if there are men available. And if you're average, the opportunities might even be much higher than if you are based in London, because you're compared to so many more people. So keep that in mind. And finally, it's important to understand that your sexual marketplace value also deals with your fitness. And I'll talk about this when we move to the next section. But in a nutshell, that's your SMV. Not complicated, but men will give you a score. We meet you, we think, oh, she's a 6. And the scoring system by men is not done as elaborately as I've done. Sometimes it's done subconsciously. Very quickly, we look at you and we say, oh, she's dressed well. She looks good. Long hair, thick hair, beautiful eyes, long legs, slim. She's a dress size 6, dress size 8. Oh, she's an 8. Now, we haven't seen you naturally, but we make that assumption, or we compare you to the next woman. So ladies, keep that in mind as you interact with men. Now, in the next section, let me bring this back. We will move to your non-sexual marketplace value, and then finally, your fertility value.